Okay, here we are with the Good News Hendo. We love what God's doing in our community. In case you haven't been with us before, Good News Hendo is about getting good news out about what's happening here in Hendersonville and in Western North Carolina. We are really kind of struggling lately with a lot of bad news. I said in an earlier podcast, when you hear the word news, at least for me, get a little knot in my stomach. I automatically, something inside of me assumes it's going to be bad. But we're here to correct that a bit and bring some good news. So we're bringing friends, ministry partners, leaders in our community, pastors, all kinds of people that are doing good things in our community. And I'm really excited today to have a good friend and fellow pastor. I've known him for a long time, David Lewkowicz. David, thanks for being on this podcast today.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I count it a joy. You're a good friend, ministry partner, and brother in the Lord. So I'm glad to be here.
Man, you are such a blessing. Tell us about the church.
Yeah, I mean, we're a part of God's church, and
Yep.
you know, we've had that conversation. On Sundays, people laugh because I say, "Hey, the Bridge Church is there for IRS purposes." We're just a piece of God's main church doing the kingdom work here in Henderson County, along with Upward and tons of other churches in our community. And so we just want to love people where they're at, show them God's grace, show them God's love, show them His forgiveness, tell them about His Son, Jesus Christ, and the pathway to a personal relationship. Show them that it's not about religion, it's about a personal relationship. That's why Jesus died on the cross, was buried in the borrowed tomb, and 3 days later rose from that grave, and He's coming back for us. And so we want to get that word out. So that's the Bridge Church. We're just a single bit a part of God's major overall church.
That's it. People may not know this either, but just about every Sunday morning I get and or receive a text from David and other pastors in the community, and we've just got a group going on in this community that says, hey, I'm praying for you. Many times David beats me to it early on a Sunday morning. I'll get a text from him, say, praying for Upward today and everything that's going on. And I don't know, that just does something for my heart that other pastors in this city, that we don't see ourselves as in competition with each other. We're not trying to get people from each other or steal anything away. We see ourselves as partners together in this city for Jesus Christ, and you're a big part of that.
Yeah, I think encouragement is huge, and I think for you and myself, been in ministry for a long time, and I think that's one of the things that we've talked about that is burning in our heart, is that pastors seeing that we're not in competition, that we're together, we're serving the same people, community, loving them, and I just love to encourage people, and so yeah, it's kind of like I leave the house at 6 a.m, sometimes 6:30, depending on when I want to roll out of bed on a Sunday, and get over to the church and meet the team, and I just, as I start driving, I don't text with my hands. I do voice to text.
That's good to know.
Yep. So sometimes that may come across awkward if the Siri doesn't understand my Southern slang.
We do have a few state troopers that listen to the podcast, so
Yes.
you may want to make that clear.
Yeah. Well, we bless them. we have an inside with the troopers because of the community room and the law enforcement room we have, and so that's kind of the way we show the love for them. But yeah, I just think it's a very important for us to know that. We are a community of men and women that are serving God, and we need to encourage one another. That's what God's Word says we need to do, and I don't want to preach it and not live it. I want to live it and preach it and make that known. So I count it an honor to get the text from you and tons of other guys as well, too.
Yeah, incredible. How about your family? Tell us a little bit about your great family. I know your wife. I don't guess I know your children, but I know your wife, and you got a great family.
Yeah, so my wife is born and raised in Henderson County. Her maiden name is Blythe. It's kind of when I moved up here, it's like, oh, you're married to Delina. You know, people that didn't know me, like, oh, you're married to the Blythe, in the Blythe family. And so her granddad, Harold, was a builder in this community. Her dad's big in commercial real estate in this community. And when we got married, she was finishing up her last semester of school at UNC Charlotte. We were living in Charlotte at the time. And I was serving a church outside of Charlotte. And she said, hey, if you want to start a family, we got to move back to Hendersonville. And so, happy wife, happy life.
Yes.
So we moved back in, and gracefully, her parents, who I actually knew really well before knowing her. I'm older than her. I married young to keep me young. I think I'm like 4.5 or 5 years older than her, and so I knew her parents through her brother's group Monday morning. So I was good friends with Sid and Tammy, and it made asking the parents, the dad, for permission to take his daughter's hand in marriage a lot easier. I was still a little nervous because Sid has this Godfather complex to him, to where he's like this mafia guy, and so but he's a great guy. He's my guy that on Sunday morning, you have that one person on Sunday morning and that you can look out in the audience and you can pick on, and he's not going to get mad. Sid's that guy for me, and a couple other guys. But we're gracious enough to have two awesome boys. Zach, is 12, just turned 12, and my son Lex just turned 6, and he is a handful.
I didn't tell you this about a month ago. I don't think I've ever met your sons, but I see them on Facebook all the time. Got a beautiful family. I saw them in Target, and I guess they were with their grandmother or something, because they were asking her to buy them something or something. I thought, there's David's kids. And I started to speak to them when all of a sudden it occurred to me, they have no idea who I am. I've never seen them. Exactly. I've done that about twice, that I've spoken to somebody that I only know through Facebook, and my wife is like, that's the creepiest thing you've ever done. You can't do that. So I did not speak to your sons.
My youngest would have said hey to you. And Zach, the oldest, he's smart. He knows that. But Zach grew up at our first location on a college campus, so interacting with adults is nothing to him. Plus, he's like, Dad, everybody knows you in this community. Like, I can't go anywhere. He went to a youth group with a friend of his, and he said his name, and the people there in the youth group were like, is your dad David Lewkowicz? And he's like, yep. And he goes, oh, okay. And so he's like, Dad, I can't go anywhere without somebody saying, are you David's boy? Yep. So yeah, both of them would have been like, oh, hey, cool, nice to meet you, and everything. And my and we call her grandma Tammy. She probably would have been like, oh, hey, yeah, I know you. David talks about you all the time.
I love it. I've heard pastors, this is off subject, and we're going to get to our subject, but I've heard pastors, I heard one a couple of years ago kind of almost complain about it. He was saying, I can't even go and walk around Walmart or anywhere or the store without people stopping me. And I thought to myself, I love that. Mm-hmm. If I go to Walmart, goodness, I have 15 good conversations with people I hadn't seen in a while, some that I have. It's fun some days I feel like I know everybody. We were at a stoplight about a week ago, and my daughter was in the car, and I just watched people as they go by. It was so funny. My daughter was naming them as they went by, and we knew the first 6 cars. We knew everybody in the car, and we just got laughing because there were random people from all different walks of life. When you've been in a place so long, you get to know people. That's one of the joys to me of pastoring, is just getting to know so many people and just feeling at home in the community.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we're called to encourage, and so and that calling is outside of the pulpit as well too. And I think so many guys get stuck in that moment. It's like, it's a Sunday, it's a Wednesday kind of thing, and during the week I'm in the office, but at night, out and about, like, my calling's off. Ministry's 24/7. There's not a punch clock that we do. Yep. And I love it too. If we want that time away, we normally kind of go down to Greenville, or we go down to Travelers Rest, where there's not many people like me and my wife can go, and there's not many, but now everybody's going down there. And so it's like, it's enjoyable to have conversations. Like, hey, why don't you come join us for dinner and hang out with us, and let's do life together.
One of my pastor friends, funny story, he pastors a fairly large church. He went on a cruise, and he was in line at the buffet bar when all of a sudden he heard, hey, pastor, from across the cruise. Now, when I'm on vacation, I don't want to be in ministry. And he was kind of like, oh, no. That's different.
Yes.
But I love being in the community. One of the things I love about you and Delina and your family and the Bridge Church is you guys are in this community in a big way. You've made an impact. Somebody said this once. They said your church can be measured by how the community would feel if your church just disappeared. Mm-hmm. If just one day your church wasn't there, would the community feel that? And I guarantee you, if the Bridge Church disappeared from Henderson County overnight, there'd be a lot of things that wouldn't happen, a lot of good things that are happening in this community that would be missed immediately. And I appreciate that about your church. You don't just talk the talk, you walk it, you live it out in our community. That it's not about just gathering a bunch of people in a room together, but it's about getting those people out into the community to demonstrate the love and the presence of Jesus Christ. You guys do that so well. One of the ways really we need to get to what we're supposed to talk about today, and we could just have fun here for an hour. But you guys did an outreach a couple weeks ago that you've been doing for probably 3 years or more now, maybe more.
This is our second year.
This is the second year, and it's having such a tremendous impact in our community. Tell the folks about what you guys did with a lot of partners.
Yeah, I think, for me and you, we both have the honor to, I like to say it, pastor law enforcement as well too, and first responders serving together at the sheriff's department, and we're kind of called in there to help with HPD as well too, and other areas of responder needs in our community. And I always was joke with Sheriff Griffin and Major Stout. It's like I always wanted to be a cop, but God called me to do something else, and so this is the closest thing I can do to be a cop, is to be a chaplain for police officers.
They usually just tell me, if anything happens, get under the car.
That's right. That's right.
They're not looking for me to help.
Yeah. And so I think that's what's so what's really cool. And I think for us, really, I've always had this passion for first responders. We as pastors, we're always, in ministry over the years, the church as a whole, God's church as a whole, has always looked to see how they can reach that unpeople group. That unmet people group, and many times we look outside our communities, outside our states, outside our country, and so really what God had been burning in my life, really starting back in 2001, is, hey, who are these unreached people groups in our state? And for us, when we first planted, the Bridge Church in Cullowhee, it was college students. Like, no one was taking the gospel to college age students, and so we planted a church right on Western's campus. And then we started seeing this cultural shift over the last few years of law enforcement and first responders really not getting the support they need. You said news media and bad, and this is a great thing to kind of bring good news to the community and to the wavelengths. And so it just started burning in my heart to say, what can we do more? What can we as God's church come together and do more? And I don't like it to be labeled as like a Bridge Church thing, because I don't want the attention on us, because I want God to get the glory. And my heart, that's an authentic thing that I like to say and do. But we just, it was September of last, 2020. The years are now out of whack because of COVID and everything.
2019 seems to be about 10 years ago.
Exactly, yeah. So putting dates together is so crazy, but it was honestly right after everything had happened with Deputy Hendricks, and we were all involved with that. And it was when we're on call, it's a call that you never want to get, and it happened to be a time that somebody was on call, but one of the guys in our church called me and woke me up at 2 a.m, and then I started making phone calls to everybody else and trying to wake you up and all the other guys, and it's a call that we don't want. And I stood, when we stood in that room at the command center over at the EMS command center, and I saw all those men and women who are like superheroes, just speechless. Everyone would come in and say something, and they would not say anything, and they were just their heads hung low. I was I went with Josh Howard and Major Gilbert to go let Don and Heidi know about it, and that affected me as much well too, just kind of seeing that. And once kind of all that settled down, I was sitting with my wife, and I was like, we need to do something to put our support around our first responders, because they are hurting right now. And one of the things I've tried to do in with our ministry is have community partners, and those community partners being restaurants that have the same type of mission that we do, of reaching people and caring for people. And so really, last year we planned the first annual First Fire Day of Thanks in 3 weeks, and Rose and Joe Dwyer jumped on board, and it was awesome. And we had a very small team, but I reached out to Hendo and Mountain Juicery and Appalachian Coffee and all these groups of people, Johnny Max, and that we had relationships with, and said, here's what I want to do for the community. This is not a Bridge Church thing. This is a community thing, us coming together. We're spearheading this. We want to take a day and just love on them all. And it went off with it went amazing last year. You know, First Bank came on and sponsored the barbecue lunch, and we did a small dinner. And then this year was easier because we had 3 months to plan it. And it's really cool because God took a big vision, a small event last year, and took that big vision and made it bigger, where this year we had, like, Beverly Hanks Realtors were wanting to do something, and Rose Driver was like, wait a second, we already do this. And I'm meeting with, Lee Blair, and he's talking to Neil Hanks, and they're saying, like, we want to get behind this. We want to financially support this and do this and come in and help volunteer. And it was a great event this year as well, too. So we do that kind of in the memory of Deputy Hendricks and really any fallen law enforcement officer or first responder, not just in our community, but around the country.
It's amazing to see so much good come out of a very difficult year for the Sheriff's Department and for these families that were affected. You had Ryan in September of that year, and then not long after that, Jax Warren. If the listeners aren't aware, we had a deputy's family. I had a little boy, Jax, who was 5 years old, I believe, had cancer and passed away. And we had 2 times that I remember after those tragedies that we were actually, you and I and the other chaplains and the community was together. We were calling out to God on the steps of the Sheriff's Department twice that year. And I just saw God do something amazing through all that. He unified people, he unified churches and God's people to stand with our heroes in the community. I just thought it was amazing to see out of such a difficult year so much love rise up. And I didn't realize that it was in the aftermath of Ryan's death that this vision was born. It's so powerful to me.
Yeah, and we always want to make, Don and Heidi and their family, like, they're our honorary guests. They were there again this year at the dinner, and their family's always invited. And, we always want to make sure that we don't lose that focus of where this came from, where this was birthed from. And I think it hit me too, as you say, we were standing on a Sunday night outside, and there's probably 1,000 people outside in the parking lots, on the roads and everything. Amazing. Huge flags flying, the motorcycle crews, guarding the sidewalks from any possible protesters. And to see our community, especially during a time where if you turned on the news during that time, it was bad law enforcement. We saw a community in Harrison County come together.
We did.
No one came out and caused any negative scenes. They would have probably been crazy if they would have, but I think that's where it just kind of hit me. And then having you guys just come in and use your gifts to really encourage not just the Hendricks family, but a community of people to say, like, we've got to do better to show this people group the support and love they need.
I've heard it time and time again from them, from law enforcement and first responders. They're so thankful for the citizens in Henderson County that love them and support them and pray for them. I hear it over and over again, and I know you do as well. That's amazing. One of the things that impresses me as well about your heart, God spoke to us some years ago at Upward, and we did. It's one of those things God puts on your heart that you don't understand immediately, but we've come to understand this. God spoke to us and said, your ministry going forward is not going to be about ownership. It's going to be about partnership. Because in the past, it's been so easy to think of ministry as happening on our property, within our budget, under our leadership structures and all that sort of thing. We have to own it to do it. And the Lord just really gently rebuked us for that type of thinking and said to us, find people who are doing my work in the community and get behind them. Whether they come to your church or not, whether they give to your church or not, whether anybody starts to attend your church through it or not, get partnered up with people who are already doing kingdom work. And that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And as I see that, I realize God's been speaking that to his church all along. It hasn't just been Upward. It's been people who are listening to what the Spirit's saying.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, we've had multiple conversations over text message, phone calls about those things and what we can do to knock down that wall, to become Hulkbuster and run through every wall barrier between each building that represents a church. And I think for us, we're unique because everything in our ministry is Sunday, and then Sunday we send them out, and it's just like, go out into the community and find at least one person you can point towards Jesus. I find one person you can show them the love and grace and forgiveness of Jesus Christ, and that works for us. And we do things during the week, online connect groups and in-home connect groups, but we just feel like I had a family that came a few weeks and were like, you close the service out every time about go point someone to Jesus, go point someone to Jesus. You're like, you don't feel like you're beating a dead horse. I'm like, no, that's the gospel. And so like, I'm always going to say that. I'm always going to preach Jesus. I'm always going to tell you to go point people to Jesus, because that's what we're called to do as his church.
Cool. I didn't know that. You know what's funny? You probably don't know this either. At Upward, every service ends with a commission. Mm-hmm. Every single service. I speak a blessing over people, and then I say, now I commission you to go and take Jesus. It's like maybe we're listening to the same person. You think?
No, hey, I love it. Our services start at 10:30, and I think you guys have an early, was it 9 or something, or one of your services starts at some time early before ours?
It changes week to week.
Yeah, and so
during COVID, it's changed twice, and it's going to change again.
So I enjoy it. Like, I kind of get up and I'm at the church, and they're run through, and then I'll get on Facebook and I'll start seeing Upwards Live, or local cool. church in Fort Lauderdale's live, where I got my friend Pastor Eric, and so I'll watch you a little bit and kind of get some feeding to my soul before I step foot in there, and then I kind of switch over to my buddy E and do that. And so I think a pastor has to be pastored, a pastor has to be encouraged.
That's right.
And I find that time on Sunday mornings, along with having a personal pastor as well too outside the community, that I can reach out to and go to as well.
I love it. So next year, this is coming again.
Mm-hmm.
How can our listeners help? How can we help if we'd like to get involved in this?
Yeah, just reach out to us.
Okay.
And honestly, the ministry, that's just an event in the ministry that we have. And so we have a building in our complex area that is open 24/7 for first responders.
Awesome.
And so they can come in and out. There's TV. They can watch YouTube. There's a bathroom they can use. They can just cut loose, take their belts off and everything. And we've got a refrigerator stock full of energy drinks, sodas, waters, a freezer stock full of food, snacks. So the Responder Day of Thanks is just an event in that ministry that we have for our first responders. And so anytime you want to say, hey, how can I get involved? How can I donate some snacks for this room, or some drinks, or some energy drinks? Because right now we're funding that, we're pushing that. That's our ministry. That's our calling to do. We have people in the community that are donating stuff as well too. Just reach out to us, reach out to me. Call the church, leave us a message, email us at hello@bchville.com, and let us know that you want to do that. You can also go on our website on the give link. There's a tab for First Responder Ministry. And then we also have a first responder pastor, Caleb Moore, who was a 6-year state trooper who serves our first responder as their pastor. So that's ways to get involved.
So the best way, they could just come to the website, find some more information. Website again is
BC, so Bridge Church, hville.com.
bchville.com. Tell us your service times again. Someone wants to come visit.
10:30 a.m. is when service starts. People finish coming in about 10:45. I don't know if it's that how you...
Is that just a Henderson County thing? We start some services and it feels almost empty, and then they get there.
Yeah. It's like after the welcome, you're like, oh, hey, there's the whole crowd's here.
Have you ever started service with a mild state of panic, like, is anybody coming today? And then they get in there. That must be Henderson County then.
Many times our worship pastor's like, should we start now? I'm like, yeah, we need to start now. And then by the end of the first song of welcome, he's like, hey, the people are here now, so that they skip that first song.
10:30 Sunday mornings.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, I hope our listeners who don't have a home church will check out the Bridge. That's a great place that I recommend. I've recommended it to people. Some people come to Upward, believe it or not, they just don't like us so much, or maybe not that. Maybe they just don't feel like this is home. People think this is so weird, but I know several pastors in our community that do this. I tell people all the time, hey, if you don't like Upward, I've got a list of 3 or 4 other churches that I say, and the Bridge is on that list. I say, go see David at the Bridge. You might find your home there. And I think that's so powerful. We're not threatened by that. We're not worried about that. We're just here reaching people for Jesus.
I do the same thing. I say, hey, what are you looking for? And if they're looking for something that I know is not upward, I'm not going to send them to upward.
Sure,
but they're looking for something that's upward. So, hey, go to upward. Go over here. Go to this place here. This is exactly what you're looking for. I know the pastor. I know the team's there. And so that's partnership in God's kingdom.
Love it. Love the heart. That's a powerful thing. Well, I just want to thank you guys for listening today. It's been so much fun to be together with Pastor David. Love his heart. And I want to encourage you to go to the website, check out the church, check out some ways you can get involved in helping our first responders. Man, thank you so much. Love you and your family. Always here. Look forward to partnering with you for more stuff going forward.
Love you too, big guy. Thank you.
Man, thank you.